All right, everybody. Good morning. We made it to the end of another week, made it to another Blue Friday, and we are one day away from preseason game number 2. So, let's talk about what needs to be talked about before we get into preseason game number 2. And I think that starts and ends with discussing the events of training camp practice number 16, which happened yesterday. So, final practice before preseason game number 2. What did we see? Corbin Smith wrote an article on it that I'm going to be utilizing for this video. I often skim his article on si.com, and sometimes I find the observations he posts to be of relative insignificance, and I don't have much to say about it. But this practice actually caught my attention a little bit, so I want to run through some of the things that Corbin Smith noted. Before I get into what he observed, however, if you go down to the bottom of the article here, we can go through some injury updates. Tyler Lockett, good news here. He did participate a little bit in team drills. He caught a couple of passes. He did not practice the whole day, but he did practice some. So it seems like he's on his way to being able to play football by the opener, which is a positive development. Now, a groin injury is something that can linger on for quite some time, and it's something you can play through, but it's not something you want to be dealing with at any time when you're a football anything, much less a wide receiver, but step in the right direction. Less good news here would be Gerald Everett seemed to have some sort of injury in warm-ups and did not participate, really. And the usual suspects, for the most part, were still sitting out. DJ Reed, Ogbuehi, Mabry, Parkinson, Blair, Penny Hart, and Ethan Posick all did not participate. So we're getting some guys back, and I think we will be seeing, Rashad Penny in the preseason game, Kim Dietschy. I don't think we're going to see Eskridge, but he's practicing now. But still some issues going on. Hopefully we can get all this ironed out before the games actually start to matter. All right. So, one of the most notable things that happened at this practice, and something that I want to spend a little bit of time talking about, is the offense. If there's been one recurring theme around the training camp so far that the Seahawks have had, the offense hasn't been looking great. And that shouldn't really be surprising because it's a new offense, but it hasn't been great. The defense has been winning a lot of their battles. There have been a lot of issues with the red zone offense in training camp so far. There have been a lot of issues with moving the ball in general. It hasn't been great. So we actually saw some productive offense in the practice yesterday. So Corbin Smith describes it as Wednesday, the team did not score a single touchdown in the red zone. And in this practice, they did it multiple times. Wilson came out firing on all cylinders, delivering a strike to a diving Will Dissly inside the 5-yard line to set up 4th and goal, and then hit John Ursua for a 3-yard touchdown. On the very next possession, Sean Mannion under center threw a jump ball to Travis Tovonin. I'll learn how to pronounce his name if he makes the team, who high-pointed the throw over the top of Demarius Randall and managed to get both feet down in bounds. So we're seeing some starters do good things, and we're seeing some reserve players do good things. In fact, Sean Mannion, it might even be generous to say that he's a reserve player because he's so unlikely to make the team, but we saw some good stuff from the offense. The efficiency continued in the 11-on-11 scrimmage. Rashad Penny scored from 2 yards out on finding a crease on an outside zone, which is the kind of stuff we're probably going to want him to do a lot this year. We also had 2 successful 2-point conversions, Cade Johnson catching in one from Magoo, and Penny punched in another one. So the offense looked better today. And in tandem with that, we saw Carson do a little bit for maybe not the first time in practice so far, but one of the first times. For obvious reasons, we haven't given him that many carries yet. We know what Carson is. We know what he can do. And we also know that he's injury prone, so we don't want to work him too much. So we saw Carson in the 11-on-11 team period have what would have been a 75-yard touchdown if the play wasn't blown dead early, which, there's no point for him needing to run out the whole rest of the play if he has a breakaway 75-yard touchdown. We also have a play here noted by Corbin Smith where he takes a handoff to the right and he executes a jump cut to get Alton Robinson and Demarius Randall to miss him on not a real tackle because you're not allowed to tackle in these exercises, but he picked up a 25-yard gain on what would have been basically no gain most of the time. So you probably won't see Carson much in the preseason. According to Corbin Smith, you won't see him at all, but he seems ready to go. All right, so that is something that I really wanted to highlight in this video, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about because the offense is obviously the most concerning thing for this team right now because it's a new system. We are bringing in a couple new players, not a lot, but a couple, and we understand that there are going to be some growing pains, but I think most of us understand that it's worth it. You have to put in some work to get to where you want to be. We could have gutted out another mediocre year with Schottenheimer, but no, we want to be great. And in order to get to greatness, you have to fight through some initial problems. And it seems like maybe, at least on a practice level, this team is starting to work through those problems and start to produce something good. Corbin Smith does outline the fact that pre-snap mistakes continued to be a problem. And he called this the best day of practice for the offense so far. The pre-snap mistakes make a lot of sense, right? Because that's the kind of stuff where you're really learning brand new stuff. You're not just able to go play football. The pre-snap stuff is a problem. There's a bunch of false starts. We had a Disley false start, a Shell false start, a Swain false start, a legal formation with only 6 players on the line of scrimmage. So D. Eskridge or Dwayne Eskridge or whatever we're calling him now, apparently he likes D, so I guess we can go with that, is having issues knowing where to line up exactly. So some of this stuff, it's not surprising. And it's probably, unfortunately, going to carry over at least some into the regular season. But the sooner they can work through these things, the better it'll be. And it's good to know that some of this stuff is being worked out in practice, at least. The more that gets worked out in practice, the less you're going to see in actual games. And those penalties were not able to stop some of the big plays. We had a 49-yard touchdown by Metcalf on a bubble screen. Wilson had a really good practice, apparently, for the most part. But, yeah, definitely some pre-snap stuff, which, again, you wouldn't expect anything less, really. But I find this stuff to be notable because it lines up with your expectations of implementing a new offense. And hopefully it means the offense is getting the work that they need done now in order to be better in the actual games. Now, there's no simulating a road environment. There's no simulating a high-pressure situation. There's no simulating a defense playing at 100% speed that is actually trying to knock you out and take the ball away. But hopefully, these growing pains will be mitigated by the time the season starts. A couple more notes from training camp yesterday. As the practice went on, the defense eventually stepped up and started playing a little better. Adams had his first big play since he returned to practice, where he knocked away a pass to Metcalf by getting around a box out. Amadi got a pass breakup of his own. Trey Brown was able to stick with Metcalf down the sideline to swat away the pass, which, I mean, I'm dubious of Trey Brown being really ready to go in 2021, at least week 1. I think he's somebody you might see play a little more as the season goes on. But it's encouraging to hear that he's doing well in practice to the point where he's able to keep up with Metcalf. Trey Flowers had another pass knockdown, which, look, I'm tired of it too. I'm tired of hearing how good he is in training camp, how good he is in practice, and then we don't see none of it in the actual games. I'm tired of it. I don't want to hear that shit anymore. I want to see it happen in real games. But, nevertheless, it's better than hearing he's bad in practice, I guess. And then the final play of practice was an Ugo Amadi interception. And, there are certainly multiple ways to look at things like this, but I'll take a practice where the offense has good moments and the defense has good moments as well. So obviously these defensive players are practicing against this offensive scheme, these routes, these play calls constantly. They're going to know what's coming. I saw some people on Twitter saying like, oh no, Wilson's throwing interceptions to Ugo Amadi. That's bad, but I don't think it works like that. So good to hear from the defense. And we also got 3 really good practices from our draft picks. So Eskridge still getting acclimated. Still don't expect to see him play this weekend against the Broncos. He did flash his intriguing playmaking skills early in the first team session. He caught a quick bubble screen and turned on the Jets, putting his speed on display and bolting 30 yards down the sideline. He caught a slant in the red zone and turned upfield for a handful of yards. Stone Forsyth had a great block on Metcalf's long screen touchdown. He even made a great block in space on Trey Flowers. That's the kind of stuff that I think this offense will value. That's the kind of stuff I really like to hear. And Trey Brown, we already kind of mentioned his breakout on Metcalf, and making some noise as a potential kick returner. So a lot of stuff to like from this practice. The main thing to me is that the offense seems like they're getting better. Are they at the point where I can feel confident they're going to be great in a game? No, they're not going to do that until they actually are great in a game, a regular season game. There's nothing they can do right now to convince me they're going to be great in a game. But it's a step in the right direction. I like to hear that. Hopefully, we can see some signs of it in this preseason game. I'll talk more about that preseason game in a bit, but that's the final report from the final practice before the game. I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think down below. One day away from game number 2.